Good evening, folks. If you're seeing this, hopefully it's working. I haven't done a live stream in quite a long time, mostly because of internet limitations where I live. During the day, internet is hard to use, especially when trying to upload. Like uploading a simple video can be quite the task during the day. Just the nature of living in rural America, I guess, and live streaming during the day just doesn't really work. As soon as my neighbors get online, it just doesn't work anymore. But here we are, 3 a.m. Central Standard Time. And I saw yesterday Jim Caviezel's new film, Sound of Freedom, a movie that is about something I can't talk about on YouTube pretty much at all. It has to do with some of the worst things people can possibly do to the most vulnerable people. And it's the true story of a former federal agent who had been tasked with taking care of that problem on the sort of domestic side, but really got tired of only catching like some of the worst elements of society who were on the receiving end of some nasty material, and decided he wanted to go after the main perpetrators, go to the source of the problem, and start rescuing some of the people involved in the problem. It's an incredible film, probably the best I've seen all year, and I highly, highly, highly recommend you go see it. There was I took this as good news, by the way. On the 4th of July, it was the number one film. It was the day it opened. It beat the Indiana Jones movie that came out, which is great for a number of reasons. Couldn't happen to a nicer company, honestly. Disney has got a catastrophic flop on its hands in the form of its new Indiana Jones movie. And since I grew up with that film, with that series of films, I loved those movies when I was a kid. I have to say I'm quite thrilled because that movie is a train wreck. It's an absolute train wreck of a film. And so this film made by Angel Studios, which is a Christian film company, which every review out there, every secular review of Sound of Freedom is making sure you know it's a Christian movie. Because let's be honest with ourselves, folks, most Christian movies are terrible. Most of them are terrible, have really comically bad theology, bad acting, bad production, all of it. This movie does not have any of those problems whatsoever. But by simply mentioning that it is a Christian movie, guess what happens? You become less likely to want to see it. So, yeah, they want to make sure that you know that this is the case, that it's a Christian film, and that you should not bother watching it. Got a couple comments here. What are they? Good morning, Teresa. Yes, where I was at, it topped out about 40 people, but I saw it at like a 1 o'clock on a Wednesday showing on yesterday, on Thursday. And by then, most people had gone back to work, and most of the people there were retirees. There is a program. If someone wants to, I don't have the link put up, but when this is done, it'll be in the comment section. There is a campaign they're running, so you can buy a ticket for somebody else who can't afford to see it. And even if you can't personally stomach the idea of what's going on, if you think like my wife who refused to watch it because she knows she'd be a wreck after watching it, if you're like in like one of those, there's a campaign where you can buy someone else a ticket who would like to see it but can't afford to. So I'll put a link to that in the comments and put that as a pinned comment. I can't stress enough that you should watch this movie, though, if you can. You will walk out like I was pretty short-tempered when I walked out of that movie yesterday. It was easily the best film of the year. But again, it couldn't happen to a nicer company, Disney having on its for opening day making, less money than a Christian film for their silly fifth Indiana Jones movie, which was just a train wreck. Now, there's going to be a couple warnings here for you about this movie. The movie is a PG-13. There's no Lord's name in vain. It's a Jim Caviezel movie post Passion of the Christ, so you're not going to see that in one of his films. But the other thing what you will probably end up encountering is, given that it's a PG-13 movie, in addition to the intense subject matter of the film, you're going to have some really cringy trailers at the beginning of this movie. Well, let me give you an example. You would expect to see, Mission Impossible 7, I think it is, comes out next week. You would expect a trailer for that at a PG-13 movie. It's the right group to target for it, except for the fact that it's inappropriate for the movie. But that wasn't the biggest offender. Most of them were just you were like, oh, this is tasteless to put this trailer here. But there was one horror movie that was like overtly like demonic that they were advertising at this movie. I've heard reports of other movies having like PG-13 movies that lean heavily on impurity. So when you watch this movie, bear that in mind. And also remember that when Jim Caviezel gives his little talk at the end of the movie where he talks about all the different attempts to stop the movie from coming out, because there were a lot of them, and you'll realize that may not have been an accident, at least on the when we talk about the preternatural. DH says the first 45 minutes are gut wrenching. Pretty much, yeah. And then there's like almost like a false solution. There's a point in the movie where you think they're about to resolve everything until you look at your watch and realize, no, we still got like 45 minutes left or something. But it's easily the best film I've seen all year. And keep in mind that my wife has a movie review YouTube channel. So I've seen a fair number of movies where she watches old movies and some new things and reviews them. So I've seen a lot of movies, and this is easily the best I've seen all year, categorically. So if you're going to see one movie this year, make it this one. Especially since, raising awareness of the issue that they talk about in that film is critical to them combating it. Esteban Moeller says it's 5:26 in the morning here. Yeah, where are you at then? Because I'm in the central U.S., and that would put you somewhere in like the Atlantic Ocean. So where are you at, Esteban? I'm curious. But here at yeah, again, I'm doing this at 3:30 in the morning because there's just not a very good ability where I live to do live streams during the day. The internet doesn't work. I've talked to the internet service provider, and they are laying fiber optic cable around town, which is great, but because for whatever reason they're not doing it immediately at houses with power lines that run behind them, and that's my house. So I have power lines right behind my house, so we're probably second or third tier down, which is annoying because I saw the fiber optic cable at the major intersection near my house. As for how many people were at this film, about 40, 50, I think. I didn't do a head count, but it was 20-ish when I sat down, and double by the time the credits were done, or by the time the trailers were done at the beginning of the movie. What's my wife's YouTube channel? It's called Forgotten Hollywood. There's two Forgotten Hollywood channels. There's one about like African American Hollywood history. That's not hers. She had a video about the Rocketeer recently, so she did that one. If you want to see back when Disney made acceptable movies, that was one that they did. But yeah, we've seen a lot of movies this year, and she's been critiqued by a family member of mine for being really harsh on movies. But then again, my wife, before she became Catholic, was really into like film studies and things. So she's actually knows what a plot looks like when you put one together. Good morning to you in the Netherlands. It is 1:30 in the morning in Arizona. Yeah. Arizona. Well, it's interesting. Arizona doesn't play the daylight savings time game. I kind of wish the rest of us would not. So I decided to actually come online and do this one, to do this short review or this sort of recommendation. It's not really a review because I don't really do film reviews per se, because this is based on true events. You can't really critique the plot. The execution of the film was fine from my perspective. If you want to see a traditional Catholic review it, the channel OMB Reviews is somebody I know, a guy I know runs that channel. He's a traditional Catholic, and he does all sorts of film reviews. He'll review, Marvel films and all sorts of other stuff. And he calls himself the critic who is a cynic because he's very cynical about modern movies. But he did an in-depth review including about technical issues in the film for this film. So I would recommend checking that one out if you want to. He's a good guy too. So, but yeah, go see it. If this movie does as well as I hope it does this weekend, because there's not a lot of heavy competition for it, then it could send a message. There's some projection that it's going to come in behind Indiana Jones in its third week for this weekend, and I would love to see this movie hit number one. I don't know if it's possible, but that would send a good message, because this movie was initially greenlit by Fox, Fox Searchlight, right, which is their indie film subdivision. And they were going to release it nationally, but then Disney bought Fox. And what happened after that? Disney shelved the movie. They canceled the movie. And it took like a crowd fundraiser to basically get the money to buy the movie rights back from Disney. Disney didn't want put this movie out, which is why it's especially delicious that Indiana Jones and the Dial of Whatever is not actually doing well against this movie. $14 million for its box office take on July 4th, and Indiana Jones only got like 11 million. So that's good. I don't care that much about box office numbers, but when modern Disney is just failing, it's a delicious thing, especially against a good movie like this. Sandy says, you've been surprised to see the pushback from places trying to discredit the movie and say it's controlled op. It reminds me of that new the prefect for the dicastery of the Doctrine of the Faith, right? People say, a lot of conservatives coming out of the woodwork saying that, the translation of his poetry is bad. It's not that big of a deal, yada, yada, yada. And it's just in there. It's a hill people are willing to just make their final stand on. They're not willing to give ground on it, even when native Spanish speakers correct them. I don't understand it. Raven Rays in the Philippines. We're not sure if it'll have a wide release. You may have to find a screening. Yeah, I don't know where it's playing outside the U.S. In his review, in one of his follow-ups to his review, OMB reviews, maybe on one of his live streams, talking about the box office numbers, pointed out there is no international take for it yet. I imagine it will get some at least limited screenings in like the United Kingdom and some other places. I would hope that in like the Philippines, which is heavily Catholic, that they would have play it. That and the other religion that they share the country with there tend to look down on this kind of thing that is the crux of the story of that film. Yeah, I'm not surprised, DH, that there's no talk about it there. So, but yeah, just I would good morning to you, Margaret, in Ireland. I would recommend checking this movie out as soon as you can. Go watch it. It is worth your time, I think. Easily, again, the best film I've seen all year, but it's not the kind of movie, like I felt weird even having like a soft drink while watching the movie, right? It's one of those you're not going to want to consume anything else while watching it. And it was really surreal walking into the theater and, the ticket person saying, enjoy your movie. Like, I know you're supposed to say that as an employee. You just say what you're supposed to say, but that's not a movie you go into enjoy. You know what I'm saying? Alexander Hansen says he listened to one of Tuco's homilies. Yeah, I'm not surprised by how you describe the contents of his homilies. They're to be expected. It's to be expected that guy is he's there for a mission. I just made a video. I've got it uploading right now. Actually, I should probably get back to that here in a minute, but it's for tomorrow, and it'll be about what his real aim is, because everybody's focusing on that aspect of him and his bad poetry. But really, one of Francis's biggest mouthpieces let out the real game about why he's being put in, and it's actually worse than any of that. So tune in tomorrow for that. But I'm curious. Once this stream is done, I'm going to I'll try to go to the VidAngel website where you can buy other people tickets and put a pin the comment there so that people can go and buy other people tickets. So they're trying to get up to 2 million tickets available for other people so that you can get as many people to go see this movie as possible. Because the only way you're going to put pressure on the system to take care of the problem is if you raise awareness. And if the system then doesn't respond positively, which it probably won't for reasons we all know that you can't say on platforms like this, then that will also help us and able to figure out what to do next. So, but this is an important movie, probably the most important movie of the year. Caviezel says it was the second most important movie he's ever made after The Passion, to give you an idea, right? So this is unequivocally an important movie that I've seen a lot of secular people who don't share our religious convictions who went to see this and agree with us. And I'll tell you on the critique of it as a religious film, there's a few like references to God in the movie, and that is it. Someone has a couple people have saints medallions, and that's about it. There's, this isn't like God's not dead kind of a movie. That's what people think of. So, so go check this movie out. It is worth your time. I'm going to log off here in a second because I've got other things to do this morning, but, check back in a few minutes, and I will see if I can put a link to the pin in the pinned comment to where you can buy tickets for other people. I've got a video going live about an hour and a half, so hopefully I'll see you all in the comment section at the premiere. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, and God bless.